Good evening, everyone. So, welcome to the inaugural academic forum organized by the CA Sri Lanka Australia chapter. So, I'm Pavitra Sirivardhana and I'm the chair of the Academic Forum 2023. So, I warmly welcome all of you all to the Academic Forum. And as stated in the invitation, so our chapter, so it is affiliated with the Sri Lanka Institute of Chartered Accountants. So the purpose of our chapter is actually to provide opportunities for our members here, so who are living here. Around 600 members had migrated from Sri Lanka, the chartered accountants, the products of chartered accountants, and living here and working as from CFOs to senior managers, and also like myself, academics, and also like professors. I can see 2 professors here. So yeah, so so now I'm going to actually invite Mr. Anuruddha Daya. So Anuruddha is our current chapter president. And so Anuruddha is actually works as the team leader, senior finance business partner for the strategic delivery and strategic transformation program for WorkSafe. So Anuruddha will actually formally welcome all of you all and do the country acknowledgement. Thank you.
Thank you, Pavitra. I feel uplifted among these academia, and really happy that this forum can be held in parallel to the visit of Mr. Sanjay Bandara, the President of the Institute of Chartered Accountants of Sri Lanka. Distinguished invitees, CA members, I'd like to warmly welcome you to our inaugural academic forum today. So start with formalities. I would like to acknowledge the country. We acknowledge this land throughout Australia as a traditional lands of the Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islanders people, and recognize their continuing connection to the land, waters, and culture. We also acknowledge elders past and present as well as emerging leaders. This includes over 50 of the professionally qualified Indigenous accountants whose knowledge is valuable for the sustainability of the business and communities in this land throughout Australia. Now with that, it's my role to give you a brief introduction of why we are here today. The Academic Forum aims to support CA Sri Lanka's efforts to provide students and their members with high quality and contemporary education and knowledge. The forum will also act as a platform and a catalyst to enhance collaboration between CA Sri Lanka and academic institutions and professional bodies in Australia. So this is a vital point, I would say, a new journey to CA Sri Lanka as well. To my knowledge, this is the first academic forum happening in all of the overseas chapters of CA Sri Lanka. So this is historical. And Sanjay. And before I go to objectives, I want to also mention Pavitra Sirivardhana, chair of this academic forum. For the past 2 to 3 months, the amount of hard work that has gone into this, engaging with all of you and coming together today. I'll also tell briefly the objectives. It is very important to understand what the outcomes that we want to derive from today. The first one is collaborative CPD sessions between CA Sri Lanka and Australian academic institutions. Facilitate CPD opportunities for CA Sri Lanka members and organize online student group discussions on pertinent topics with CA ANZ and CP Australia. Publish joint survey papers with CA ANZ and CP Australia. Network with resource persons to develop selected question banks and examination materials. And facilitate, this is very important, the establishment of long-term collaboration with Australian academic institutions. So Right? This is the most vital point. This is the beginning, but the journey has to go on. So today, Sanjay being present, I think we'll have opportunity to talk to you personally after the formal proceedings, some networking sessions, because the value comes from that long-term collaboration. And also the professional accounting bodies, CA and CP Australia, where we have mutual recognition agreements, and your presence is very vital here today for us. So with that brief introduction and welcome, I'd like to hand over back to Dr. Parasigaraj. So housekeeping, few points. Please keep your mobile phones in silent mode. Meeting is recorded. Washrooms are located in the lift. Fire exits. In case of an emergency, assemble in RMIT basketball court, corner of the A. Beckett and Stewart Street. If you have anything to comment, please raise your hand, and there will be a question session at the end of the session.
Thank you. Yeah. I would also like to actually introduce our Vice President here, so Mr. Nagaraja. So he is actually the Manager Group Audit Cybersecurity at Westpac Bank. So an accountant transformed into a cybersecurity manager. Yeah. So now I'm going to actually call upon our keynote speaker tonight, Sanjay Bandara. So let me introduce Sanjay. So Sanjay works as a partner at BRB Silva and Company, a firm of chartered accountants in Colombo. And he's also the board member of a Confederation of Asian and Pacific Accountants, board member of Sri Lanka Accounting and Auditing Standard Monitoring Board, and a technical advisor, South Asian Federation of Accountants, and also a governing council member of University of Kelaniya, Sri Lanka. Over to you, Sanjay. Thank you.
Thank you, Palista. Professors, doctors, distinguished invitees, members of CA Sri Lanka Australian chapter, ladies and gentlemen, good evening to all of you. The Institute of Chartered Accountants of Sri Lanka is the national body of accountants in Sri Lanka. And our institute was established way back in 1959. And we have a very rich history spanning over 64 years. And our Act of Incorporation clearly articulate the objectives of our institute. Several objectives have been indicated, and out of them, right, three main objectives. And first the objectives are: the first one, promote theory and practice of accountancy, auditing, taxation, and financial management. The second one, produce chartered accountants for the global market or global job market. Third one is capacity building of our members. There are a few more, but the first three are those: promote theory and practice of accountancy, auditing, taxation, etc., and produce chartered accountants sought after chartered accountants for the global job market. Third one, capacity. And at the moment, we have around 35,000 active students. In the process of producing good quality, competent chartered accountant, we need to have a world-class syllabus or world-class curriculum. So therefore, what we have been doing is, once in every 5 years, we review the existing curriculum and introduce new curriculum. The present curriculum we are using at the moment was introduced in 2020. So we finalized the curriculum in 2019. It was effective from 1st January 2020. Now the next curriculum revision is due in this year, because new curriculum, our practice has always been, right, launched the new curriculum 6 months prior to the effective date of the curriculum. The new curriculum will be effective from 1st January 2025, and so we have an intention of finalizing it and launch it by mid 2024. So therefore, we are now in the process of identifying the resource persons required in developing new curriculum for CA. Now, traditionally, what we used to do is we used to have a stakeholder engagement session, several sessions, right? Get their insight or the input as to what are the skills and competencies they are expecting from a future chartered accountant. That's what we used to do, right? Whenever we start a curriculum revision, we used to consult them, chairmen, managing directors, and finance directors, because they are employers of chartered accountants. We invited them to the institute, and we had a kind of a discussion with them to identify the skills and competencies they are expecting from a future chartered accountant. That was the beginning. So thereafter, we went to the curriculum of other leading professional accounting organizations also, right? And then our consultant basically, by taking everything into consideration, finalize curriculum of CA. And normally at the moment, our curriculum have 3 pillars. One is the technical pillar, so we have 16 technical subjects. And then the skill pillar, focusing on IT and communication skills. Unlike the country like Australia, communication is a important in our qualification. And third pillar is training pillar. So therefore, we have 3 pillars: technical pillar, skills pillar, and training pillar. And as far as the technical pillar is concerned, learning outcomes have been very specifically defined, and action verb also, because all these questions will start with the specific action verbs given in our curriculum. So therefore, we have predefined action verbs, those who have also been developed and communicated to the students. So in addition to that, BPP, they have been supporting us in writing study texts for our curriculum. Since 2015, 15th curriculum, so they basically support us in writing the study text for our curriculum. So therefore, this is what we have been doing, especially in this process of revising CA curriculum. So as far as our examinations are concerned, first 2 levels of our examinations, we offer it on demand starting from this year. First 2 levels, business level 1 and business level 2, so we are offering it on demand. And third and fourth examinations, strategic and corporate level examinations, offering once in 6 months, 2 examinations for a year. Now, we, as I said, so we are now in the process of, selecting a consultant, to revise our curriculum. So therefore, thought of, seeking the assistance of Pavitra and Anuruddha to get some input, from our members and the, resource persons at the University Academia here, right? To revise our curriculum, because during the last 3 years, 2020 to 2023, right, there have been many changes in the accounting profession, especially say whether it be data analytics or AI or sustainability reporting, right, cyber security, whatnot, right? So therefore, what we did was actually the last year we did a kind of a minor revision to curriculum where data analytics, cyber security, and artificial intelligence, both theory and practice, both were included, into our curriculum, right? Technical pillar we included, theory, and our skill pillar, so we included, the practice of both analytics and AI. So therefore now, going forward, one other, actually the last February I was in Canada where I met CPA Canada, officials, right? Where I was told that they are also in the process of revising their curriculum. They specifically mentioned about 2 things. The first one is they said the most of the professional bodies, the curriculum is overloaded with the content, right? So they said, okay, that is one of the reasons why our qualifications have become kind of unpopular among the student the population, because it's overloaded with the content, and they were the view, they are view, right? They were the view that okay, so it's not attractive for the student because of that one, right? They said, okay, so now the content is available in the internet, so therefore you don't need to overload content, into those the modules. ensure that you include only the essential, element into the curriculum. Rest of it, if you know, for example, how to interpret a financial statement, rest of it, for example, computation of ratios and etc., probably need not be part of your curriculum, for example, right? Because available, what it really matters whether you can interpret and then use that knowledge in taking decisions, right? So there's some other content, which is there as part of your syllabus. They said, okay, might not necessarily be there as part of your syllabus, right? So there was a okay, so they are in the process of considering, right, revising the content, take out these, overload of content and simplify as much as possible. The second month, they were of the view that okay, they should relook at the training element or the training component, right, in CA qualifications. I believe that some of you probably might be aware that Indian Institute took a decision now from the onwards, now 3-year training period, they reduced it to 2 years. Right now, so when say I qualified as an accountant, training requirement 4 years, right? And then about 10 years ago, globally, so it was reduced to 3 years. Now, a couple of institutions have reduced it to 2 years, and the CPA Canada officials also telling me they also consider not to reduce, but again they didn't tell specifically whether they are going to reduce or not. But they were telling me okay, they are considering kind of a change, right? And they said okay, so most of the students were complaining that training component of the qualification is rigid, right? So therefore, so we don't want to pursue CA or a CPA, right? These are some of the observations shared by them, right? And we felt that okay, we should also consider some of these elements, right, in revising the curriculum. So that's the first thing, first kind of discussion we need to have it here, as I told Professor the booth, right? If you can give kind of an insight for us, especially, so we should consider in revising the curriculum, especially in terms of all these specific areas that I mentioned, we appreciate. And the second one is the capacity building, so especially, as far as the young members are concerned, right? Especially these new areas I earlier said, whether it be analytics or AI and blockchain or sustainability report. A lot of opportunities available in these areas where I believe that most of you are aware that we had this World Congress of Accountants last November in India, where IFAC president and many speakers kept on telling that the accountants with good knowledge in analytics and AI and use of analytics and AI in financial reporting or auditing profession, right, will have a greater demand, globally. So therefore, especially those who qualified during last 5 to 10 years, right? Because during last 5 to 10 years, we were not really focusing on those areas, especially now they were not part of the qualification. Neither we organized many sessions on those areas, to support the members. But now, right, it's kind of mandatory for us to basically support. We have to, take some initiatives to introduce some programs, right, to support them as far as those areas are concerned. Capacity building of especially young members, right, in these areas, so that so their knowledge always remains relevant and so they are employable in anywhere in the world. Recently, actually, we started a program on sustainability reporting with ICAW. ICAW is offering a good program on sustainability reporting, and we got into an MOU with them, and we're offering that program now in Sri Lanka together with ICAW. And data analytics, we developed our own program, and initially it was a general program in data analytics, and thereafter now so we have tailor-made it. One is data analytics in financial reporting, data analytics in auditing. Likewise, the restructure the program in a manner where, for example, we have programs for the auditing professionals. We have programs especially for those individuals involved in the financial reporting, right? And likewise, there are many other areas where we believe that, so we can help our members, by introducing new areas. So them, capacity building needs of them, so that, whether it be in Sri Lanka or Australia, the UK, US, so, whatever the country, they can be employed because they are equipped with basically the areas of the recent development in the profession in the global context. The third one, so the second one, as Anuruddha said and Pavitra both said, so we want to explore the possibility now. For example, if you're offering programs in analytics or AI and blockchain, etc., whether we can collaborate with you all and offer those programs, for the members or the students of our institute, in a manner where both institutions or the institute and the universities are benefited. Third one, so we have a separate unit within our institute where we offer academic qualifications for our students. At the moment, we are offering a degree in accounting, applied accounting, BSc applied accounting. We started offering 10 years ago, and 2 years ago, so we developed another degree, business analytics, right? And our own MBA. So we got the approval only during this year, in the sense last March, only we got the approval to offer those degrees, because Sri Lankan process, once you develop the degree, you have to submit it with the approval of the Ministry of Higher Education, right? And then review panel is appointed, they review the content and etc., and give us the feedback, and then thereafter, based on their feedback, we make the required changes, and then finally they approve the content, and basically give us the approval to offer the degree. Last month we got the approval. Now from next month on, we're going to offer this degree for our students, one in business analytics, other one the MBA for our own members. Actually, so about 5 years ago, right, I had a discussion with a couple of leading universities in Australia to offer their degree programs in Sri Lanka, because most of them were now around 15,000 students every year, right, come here from Sri Lanka, for higher education. 15,000 a year, right? Now, because of the current economic kind of crisis and whatnot, right, so this number has reduced little. Now it's about 10,000 a year, right? So now we actually wanted to explore the possibilities of running once again, the degrees of the universities here, right? Where, for example, so they can complete 2 years there in Sri Lanka and balance 2 years here in Australia, or first year in Sri Lanka, and 2 years in Australia, because we all hope that within next 1 or 2 years, so we might be able to come out of this crisis, and then as usual, students can come here and complete the degree, etc. So there were the next 2 years we want to get them to do it there in Sri Lanka with us at the CA, and they are for them to come and complete the balance 2 years, whatever, right, in Sri Lanka. Therefore, that's another area. At the moment, we are offering MBA of University of Southern Queensland there in Sri Lanka. And at the moment, once again, there's a bit of an issue, because now because of this currency issue, the MBA University of Southern Queensland MBA is also very expensive, right? Because of currency, but of course, we're seeing kind of appreciation in our currency. So with that, I believe that it will also be affordable, for our members going forward. So these are some of the areas where I felt that okay, so we should basically have kind of a discussion on, and see whether both institute and all of you can work together for a mutual benefit, right? So now I think so that's about my small presentation, right? Now as Pavitra said, so we'll have kind of a discussion where so how we can take it forward. Thank you.
Thank you, Sanjay. Yes, I know it's lots of requirements and expectations. We'll see how we can actually, yeah. How you can fulfill your requirements, yes. At least some of those in the near future. Yes, so now I would like to actually invite some of our academics here representing from different universities to share their views on your requirements and expectations.
Sorry, I forgot one thing.
Yes. One more to add.
As I said now, for the at the moment, first two levels, right? We offer first two levels, first two examinations on demand, right? And third and fourth examinations, 2 examinations a year, once in 6 months. Actually, we have kind of a requirement where we need to increase the database, a question bank used for the first 2 examinations. So our process is that every year, so we add 500 questions for each subject. Right? We have a process where we add 500 questions, but we feel that that is not good enough, right? 500 is not good enough, right? So therefore, we want to say, for example, make it 1,000 a year, so that so we have a bigger database. The second one, Third and fourth examinations, as I said, so we are at the moment offering it on a once in 6 months visit, 2 examinations for a year. So we need to increase the frequency of this examination, right? Once in a quarter, so that students can complete the examination fast, right? One of the biggest challenge so we have in Sri Lanka is availability of resources in setting the papers for third and fourth examinations. I know for some professional examinations, the papers are set by leading universities. So therefore, I wanted to check with Pavitra on the board whether university is here. Actually, we explore the possibility of working together with Sri Lanka University, but again, some of the leading professional professors and the doctors of leading universities in Sri Lanka also, I mean, most of them are on board at the moment with us. So therefore, now increasing this frequency is a bit difficult due to unavailability of resources. So therefore, we wanted to check so with basically universities here whether they can support us, especially the increase in this frequency of examinations by coming on board as resource persons for setting papers. So that's it.
Thanks, Sanjay. Yes, so I'm going to now call upon here Associate Professor Lukmika Pereira. So Lukmika works at Clouds Education, Integrated Thinking and Business Strategy as a consultant. Am I correct, Lukmika?
Yes. No longer associate professor, it's now a doctor. But
Okay. Right. So so you can actually share your views with Sanjay and the audience for
Sure.
about 5 minutes. Yeah.
5 minutes it is. If you can keep a timer, that would be great. If you talk too much, I'll try not to do that. Right? So, absolute honor to be here, and I acknowledge obviously the Varanjali people of the Kulin Nation. So I'm from the Kaurav clan of Sri Lanka, so I'm a Gurukula, which also has my own tradition. So that's where I come from. And so I also acknowledge the traditional owners of our land, and I wish them all the very best. And any traditional owners here, I pay my respects to you as well. So, in terms of going forward, one of the things that I want to touch on, and something that may have not yet been touched, is not necessarily the education side. The academics are fine. Everybody knows that, okay, the syllabus is there, it's fine. You do what you need to do, and you're good. But what about the competencies? What about the ability to do what you are trained to do? Are we looking at that? So one of the things that I've seen in many of the professional bodies globally is that testing of competencies. I know that CPA, CA and IP are all looking at competency-based entry into the pathways, and I think CPA has done some work in non-traditional pathways to the profession, and also CAs and IPs are doing the same as well. So one of the things I think which CA Sri Lanka needs to consider is the non-traditional pathways, because the problem is, as accountants, we are actually limiting people from joining our profession. Sometimes when the time comes and when you say, okay, what about the AATs or accounting technicians? Can we upgrade them to be accountants? But no, we are pushing them aside globally. Think of the competency-based approaches. So it's the competency-based approaches that need to be considered in terms of getting people into the profession. For example, get a PhD from Oxford in arts. I mean, they are bloody intelligent, if you ask me. Yes. So why not, if they want to join the profession, why not give them the ability to test their competency one way or another? Yes. And then look at what gaps need to be filled in terms of competency, and only needing to fill those gaps to become accountants. I mean, that's something for CA Sri Lanka to consider, because I know for a fact your numbers are reducing overall in terms of the people who are coming in as accountants. In terms of registered, not just your profession, but global, I'm talking about, the numbers are going down. I mean, the number of registered auditors in Australia have significantly dwindled, and you know that. So how do we address these issues? Because we are not being creative enough in terms of, as a global profession, we are not being creative enough in terms of getting the right people in. So one of the key things that I want to touch on is that competency-based entry. Okay, so that's one of the things. Secondly, I fully believe, so just a preamble, I did my first degree in artificial intelligence and cryptography in computer science back in 2000 and, no, time ago, I won't tell the name, but long enough. At that time, AI was not even considered mainstream. They said, what the hell are you doing? Yeah? But that knowledge, that ability has gotten me where I am today, so I'm very grateful for that. So, but that knowledge is not just sufficient enough in terms of today's environment. You might have all the knowledge, you might have all the technical competencies, but what about the soft skills? Now, not just the communication skills, there are two parts to communication skills. Communication skills is not about what you say, what you write, but how you deal with people. How do you train that into the system? How do you train that into the curriculum? Can you do that? Yes or no? Have a think about it. But these are competencies that you can slowly develop. So if I'm thinking about Chartered Accountants Sri Lanka, I think technically your syllabus is pretty advanced because it follows the traditional pathway of ICAW. It was originally modeled in 1956, I think from memory, based on the ICAW syllabus. So because of that, technically you're sound, but how do we build that soft skill component into the system? So 2 minutes more, I presume, Pavitra? Okay, so not bad in my timing. Right, last but not least, in terms of broadening our scope, I'm taking the words of Professor Melvin King, who I've been honored to work with for a couple of years and who was somewhat of a mentor to me. His last book said, Auditus quo vadis, in Latin, where are you going? What do you think, where will the accounting profession be in the next 5 to 10 years? What do you think? We need to morph. We've dropped the ball on sustainability. There are other engineers and other people, other professions taking over. We dropped the ball on financial planning. Other professions are taking over. We dropped the ball on blockchain, cloud security, and so forth. The accountants are the gatekeepers of all these areas. There are opportunities for us here. So those are the things, I think you're already considering some of those, but how we incorporate that and morph the profession is something you need to consider. I'll give one last example before I stop. How many of you do, those of you who are in practice, I'm an ex-practitioner, how many of us do physical consolidations at the moment? One press of a button. But why are we still teaching consolidations in the syllabus? Have a think about that, and I'll stop there. I'm happy to take a question for 1 minute if there's anything, or you want to do it later?
Yeah, later at the end.
No worries.
Thank you
All right.
so much, Ratmika. Right. So now may I call upon Megdet Tarakos from RMIT to share her own views with us.
Thank you, Pavitra, and a pleasure to be here and lovely to meet you, Mr. Sanjay. I think we really have to come back to how the role of an accountant has changed and look at that as to what we include in our curriculum. And if we look at, what does an accountant do now? And who do people turn to get them out of the pandemic? Everybody, all business owners went to their accountant. Accountants were front and center at creating that roadmap out of the pandemic. And if you think about what an accountant does now, we've got automation and AI, as Ratmika was going there. And we've now got this automation of data entry and reconciliation and report generation. So students need an awareness of that. They need to know whether the output looks correct but what do we do with that? That's where the role of what an accountant currently does has shifted. And it's now about taking that information, those huge data sets that accountants have access to these days, and being able to interpret that, generate meaningful insights, and then communicate that to our clients, to the board, to whoever the stakeholders may be. Now that, as Ratmika kind of mentioned, is not just about verbal communication, written communication. There's infographics, there's whole dashboards that are produced these days. That's the kind of world that we need to be preparing our students for, whether that's in the profession and at universities. Cybersecurity and data privacy, huge areas that accountants need to be across. In some ways, the accountants are looking at the ethical underpinnings of those algorithms. We're responsible for that. How are we teaching our students and our members to manage that process? That is a huge one going forward, because we've all seen where it's gone wrong with recent examples. In Australia, we've had some beauties recently, and you know, it is happening around the world. So accountants very much need to look at the assurance of that, ensure ethical procedures are being followed, and implementing robust security measures to manage that. Risk management is a huge one underpinning that whole cybersecurity thing. These things need to be in the curriculum. And then, as Lakmika mentioned, the role of the accountant has shifted to one of a strategic advisor. If you think back again to the pandemic, accountants became counsellors, particularly in rural areas. You know, small business owners went to the accountant for advice. Is that in the curriculum? And then if we think back to this exciting role that accountants have moved into, you know, it's much more than just report generation. In getting people into the profession, you know, I know in Australia it's very much working with career advisors at secondary schools as to what they're telling their students that accountants do, because that influences, we know from research, this influences students in their selection of programs at universities. And if we're not getting them selecting accounting at universities, they're not going to feed into the profession. So I think it comes back to this conversation that we have with secondary school career advisors about what an accountant does and how it has evolved and moved into a much more exciting value-added role than perhaps, and I think there's this myth, perhaps existing amongst secondary school or career advisors that accountants, the role of accounting is dying because we're all being taken over by technology. Oh no, technology has just reinvented us and created a whole new world for us. So I think there's a conversation there. So how does the curriculum need to change? We need to get AI in there, that data visualization needs to get in there, data literacy so that we're really competent in managing big data sets. Ethics, huge one. Risk management, another big one these days. And I think this process of lifelong learning, things are quickly evolving. We've seen ChatGPT bust onto the scene. We weren't dealing with that last semester. I wrote an exercise for my students. I taught them how to use ChatGPT last week in classes. I made them aware of its limitations. They were amazed at what got wrong. They were amazed at what it could do. But by the time they enter the workforce, that's front and center. That's a big tool that they will have at their access. We need to acknowledge that and incorporate that into what we do. And that comes back to how we write assessment. And it just exposing students to real world scenarios in our assessment. And I don't want to steal my fabulous colleague, Mr. Vic Doherty's presentation on simulations, because he's such an expert in that area. But it's a fabulous way of replicating what happens in the real world in a controlled environment and something that's comfortable for our students when they're not exposed to, you know, and they're not going to mess up. But a fabulous way to introduce them to ethical considerations and playing around with different concepts in decision making and risk assessment. So, Victor, I'm giving them a little teaser of what you've got in mind, and I think that might be my time up for it. But thank you.
Thank you, Mette. Thank you for sharing your views. So, Subhash. So, may I cordially invite now Professor Subhash Abeyvasa from Swinburne University to share your views with us.
Thank you, Dr. So thanks a lot for having me.
Yes.
And when I came here, there were a few things that I wanted to talk about. and then after listening to Sanjay, seems like you're on top of everything. We have been talking about data analytics, the importance of including things like data analytics, visualization, artificial intelligence, sustainability, etc. in the curriculum. You're already thinking about it, right? So that limits the things that I can talk about. So Lakmika spoke about the importance of having having competencies incorporated in, and then ensuring that the accountants who are graduating have those competencies. And then Meredith also spoke about the importance of certain aspects of technology, etc., including cybersecurity in the curriculum. So I think what I can talk about is a little bit about research, right? Because that has not been touched upon. I don't know whether that's something you're really interested in as well, but when I look at other professional associations, professional accounting associations especially, you see that they do have a research arm, or at least a small team that supports research. Research that takes place within the association, as well as supporting academics to conduct research of importance to the association and the accounting profession. So that, and on my way here, I took the train, I was looking at your website, and I did not see much information about research there. So I thought maybe this is something you could think about, because research opens up avenues for other types of collaborations which you're looking for as well. At the end of the day, you want to incorporate the cutting edge content into your syllabus and curriculum, and it is research that informs that. So I think it's important to place some emphasis on that. And I know research is not cheap, right? People's involvement, you got to pay for databases, you got to pay for research assistance. So, and in the current economic climate in Sri Lanka, it might not be easy to fund research. You have other strategic priorities as well, of course. So maybe a good way to enhance this research capability is to collaborate with people in overseas universities, academics in overseas universities. Now, academics have a workload for research, and we are interested in research. We are interested in exploring new areas in sustainability, in digital technology, and how all this come together to enhance accountant skills, right? So maybe you could work closely with accounting academics here in Australia as well as Canada, maybe, because you have as we spoke earlier, you have a really good presence there. And we can tap into grant opportunities that are available through these countries. For example, the other day we've been talking about with Lakmika about DFAT funding, for instance. That can be used. I know some of my colleagues at Swinburne University have used DFAT funding to support certain initiatives in Southeast Asia. So not directly benefiting Australia, but benefiting the region. So there are opportunities like that. And sometimes you don't need to spend too much money. But one limitation that we face here is access to data. And as academics coming from Sri Lanka, we also want to do something for our country. So if we can get access to Sri Lankan data, we can do some interesting stuff with it. We have ideas, but we don't have access to data. So collaborating with people in Sri Lanka, the chartered accountants in Sri Lanka, because we need to access organizations in Sri Lanka. And I guess the chartered accountants is a really interesting and a more effective way of accessing these organizations. So there are lots of ways in which we can collaborate to do more research, and that research will definitely feed into curriculum development, and also would result in other types of collaborations in teaching and designing questions, etc., which you wanted to see happen. All right.
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much. Okay, so Sanjay, you were listening to the views of the academia. So now I will would actually like to invite the representatives of the professional bodies to see what their views on this, your requirements. Yeah, so may I now call upon Nadi Disanaika and Loretta Ross from CPA Australia. Yeah. You have said what you actually
haven't said them.
Oh, you haven't?
No, I haven't.
Okay.
But if you don't mind, I might show a few pictures. I think pictures tell 1,000 words. It's labelled correctly.
Yeah.
All right. So listening to everybody's wonderful presentations, I thought, how can I come up here and not repeat the problems that we've all collectively agreed to solve as a profession, and a global profession, as I represent CPA Australia as I stand here today. And I thought the one thing that hasn't been addressed, which I consider to be probably the biggest issue of them all, which is the rate of change. And I think honestly, the minute you put your curriculum together, as you've said, and you cover all the pertinent curriculum related changes, it's out of date within the next month, maybe even a week. And that's the problem with AI, that's the problem with all the data analytics, the tools, the software, everything now to be job ready. That is ultimately the issue. So I'm going to cover my 5 minutes today on lifelong learning and how important it is not only to start your journey at the core skills and knowledge that you need, and how important it is to have, whether it's the CPA Australia program or the Sri Lankan program, or indeed any other professional accounting program, that is going to give you the core skills. But really, the key for all of this now is to continuously learn, to reskill, to upskill, to probably unlearn as well, which I think is also a skill that perhaps people don't realise they need to have more than ever. Particularly as we all get older, I think it becomes harder to adopt new ways of learning. So these are some of the trends that we've already talked about that are shaping the profession. But I think our role as a professional body is, if you could skip, I'll go quicker. Our role as a professional body is really to help all of our accountants learn all of these skills. So you mentioned a few of them already, there's been many mentioned, they're all here. This is a capability framework, every professional body should have one, and this is up to date as of 3 months ago, and of course includes ESG and risk management, but what it includes that hasn't been mentioned is the opportunities for accountants now. Look at procurement and supply chain. That is a transition in its own right. Cybersecurity was mentioned. We're looking at data roles, data in any way, data scientists. How do you become a strategic finance business partner and then you have an evolution, a transition of your career over into a data scientist or some sort of data governance role? There are so many ways that you can zigzag now through this framework and pick up all different skills across all different areas and reinvent yourself. And I'm sure there's a lot smarter people in the room here that can tell me now what the research says about how many jobs we're going to have in our lives. I believe it was 8, it's probably 30 now, and now you can really choose your own adventure through your designation, through being a professional accountant, and come up with now a really exciting career that's going to change probably every year, I would say. There'll be something new. So if you go to, I'll just flip to the next slide. One of the things that I think is going to facilitate this is micro-credentials. So you would all agree, you start your journey and you become qualified, and then really you're looking to pick up new skills and new certifications throughout your entire career. And micro-credentials is really probably the disruptor to education, really, much like AI or data visualization is to accounting. So the next slide really just talks a bit about what a micro-credential is, and it really facilitates that journey of lifelong learning, and you could be recognised for it with a digital badge. So in closing, I'll say that CPA Australia is very happy to partner with the Institute in any way that we can to help your collaboration, and in a way that we might be able to share our credentials, which feature a whole range of learning design, simulations, discussion forums. I mean, if you look at that list, that is really the future of education, and how you do it on demand from the comfort of your own home with an online assessment, and you earn a digital badge in all these really up and coming areas. So if we can share those with the Institute and work out any kind of pricing we're looking at for Sri Lanka as well, just given the different economic conditions, and certainly here in your Australian chapter as well, we'd be very happy to share them with you and partner. So I think that's 5 minutes. I've gone quickly.
Yes, so now we are here for Nadi Disanayake. So Nadi is also a chapter member of CA Sri Lanka Australian chapter here.
Thank you, Pavitra. Thank you, and team, for inviting me. And it's a great pleasure to be here, especially when CA Sri Lanka President Sanjay Bandari is here. He's one of the lecturer and mentor. We have worked with in CA Sri Lanka many times. So I think I'm wearing different hats here today because representing CP Australia, and I also member of CA Sri Lanka. And previously I worked for CA Sri Lanka for 8 years as a manager examination. So Lorena touched upon my credential and other products that we have. Definitely comes with a cost. So I'm going to touch upon few areas of the resources that we create, which are available publicly, so that members of CA Sri Lanka can benefit on. Mainly, I'll be a bit selfish here. I'll be focusing only on my business unit policy area. So we are the smallest business unit in CP Australia. We have policy advisors and technical advisors in different areas like ESG. I'm basically looking after financial reporting aspects or tax and audit and assurance. So in terms of creating knowledge, we work on few areas like responding to consultation. It could be local, international, as well as we collaborate with standard setting boards. Then we work on thought leadership projects and we undertake research. Then tools and resources, and we have Center of Excellence team. I'll come to those things in detail. Next slide, please. So regarding consultation, so one of the objective of this forum is to see how we could collaborate with academics and professional accounting bodies. We do a lot of work with CANG in terms of producing submission for consultation. So we are very vocal and keen on producing submission on topical issues like sustainability. Like you would have heard that ISB issued a technical first set of standard IFRS S1 and S2. And even not only we are focusing on when we produce submission, we focus on other jurisdictions as well. For example, IFRS for SME is not in Australia, but it's in other jurisdictions like Sri Lanka. So we made a submission for that. When we do submission, we engage a lot of practitioners, academics. We have focus group. Now in policy and advocacy unit, what is different from other business unit is that they engage with wider student group and wider member group, but we have very targeted group like Center of Excellence, where experts come into a table and we discuss how the response is going to look like. So other topics like digital asset, cryptocurrencies. So all of these submissions are readily available on the website. Anyone can access, not restricted to CPA members. So these are like mini research. So why I want to showcase this one here is you don't have to reinvent the wheel, start from the scratch. This is something personally talking. I feel missing in Sri Lanka. So we don't really engage with this discussion. Maybe I know there are cost limitation and resource limitation. Maybe this is something we could look into, because if, as Lauren alluded to in his speech earlier, that we are talking about lifelong learning. So how you could really keep your learning journey going unless you don't aware of what's happening in the market. If you don't aware of what are the discussion papers going to come in, what are the exposure draft going to come in. So we in this level, I'm taking too much now.
No.
In this level, we engage in different level, like for example at the discussion paper level, then it comes to the exposure draft level, then when the standards are effective in the market, then we gather information from the people to see how it's going on at the post-implementation review level. So it's happening 3 or 4 stages. I think it's a good thing to think about, especially when you can engage with maybe mid-tier or big fours to understand what are the difficulties they are facing and support members to share their challenges, share their problem, and tell the accounting standards boards. Maybe I know in Sri Lanka we have IPSAS in public sector. Especially when it comes to the consultation, we are not only focusing on for-profit sector, we are very active in public sector as well as not-for-profit sector. Even though we don't have IPSAS being practiced, we have even our public sector is based on the Australian accounting standard as well. So still we very vocal and active in this place. Then thought leadership projects. So we have a research program called Global Research Perspective Program, which is for overall CPA. But we have in policy division, we have a business unit, we have a separate budget for research where we engage academics and around the world. Maybe we do some recently we did a research program with CNC where both bodies co-host the program. So main focus in policy division is we talk about main the emerging issues like digital reporting, climate change. I know that climate change and then greenhouse gas, those stuff are quite topical in these days. So we really focus on those areas. Again, just want to highlight the fact that you can use the resources because they are publicly available. Maybe you can think around how to you're going to create a special kind of platform. Maybe coming up with new initiative or innovative way of how to give CPD program using the resources that are already available. Next slide. Apart from the research, we also do a lot of produce guides, fact sheet, FAQs, and webinars, stuff like that. Even these days, the topical issue is the climate risk and how we're going to disclose the climate risk in financial reporting. So I'm just going to highlight that the climate risk webinar. There were more than 1,500 people attended globally for this webinar, so it's open for everyone. The recording is still available. I think even CA Sri Lanka members can access that. So I think that brings me to end of my presentation. Now wearing my CA member hat and past stuff, I would like to highlight 2 points especially. First thing is, let's say, like we talk about and having marvelous curriculum and stuff like that. So even though we have nice curriculum, if we don't impart that knowledge effective students, we can't expect that quality. I know in Sri Lanka we have outsourced that process to other tuition colleges, so it's really maybe CA Sri Lanka to have the mechanism and steps to make sure that the lecturers are trained well, they are capable, they are aware of these emerging issues so that they can impart that knowledge to students. That's the first thing. Secondly, the quality control process of the examination. So we have a nice curriculum, then if you don't have lecturers, if you don't have good assessment system, we can't screen the right student. The members becoming members and going to work as an accountant and audit firm somewhere. How are we going to make sure they are ethical and doing the right thing? So those aspects I would like to highlight, and I hope that you're going to take that forward in future. Okay, thanks so much.
Thanks, Navi. Yes, so now I'm going to invite Anthony Chakirti from CATS. Over to you, Anthony.
Good evening, everyone. Absolute pleasure to be here with you today, and I think it was mentioned earlier, this is historical to bring this academic forum together with leadership of Chartered Accountants from Sri Lanka. So thank you as well for inviting me to be represented here for Chartered Accountants Australia this evening. I've met a few faces around the room that are familiar, but for those of you who I've not met before, my name's Anthony, and in terms of what I do at Chartered Accountants Australia New Zealand, I look after our career engagement. So that works with universities, with academics, with career teams, students, working also with high schools as well. Trying to really build what that pipeline of future talent look like, and then engaging with the graduates that commence that sort of CA program. So I really love the sort of discussion tonight and how engaged everyone is with what we can sort of do, going forward. And absolutely, it's been a real great way in which we can sort of build that collaboration across the board. And I think, Jonah, I feel like I met you at Coa actually, that you were down there and you came up with a little area, so lovely to see that. going back as we start, I think earlier was mentioned around, it's not just about curriculum, it's around what happened beforehand. And I think that's definitely vitally important for what you see around, what's the attraction to the profession. We know there's that issue and that sort of decline coming through, and it is that initial collaboration between professional body with academics, with sort of high to really showcase where career built on accounting skill can take you. Going to the point of I think you said that like President that you used there as an accountant and now moved into that lovely world of cyber. It's like how can we start to showcase those skills that actually start accountancy, but this can lead you into all of these different worlds. And bringing that into the actual curriculum as well on the program is something that we see going fundamentally to the point that you mentioned earlier. It's about a global career. So how can we showcase global career, but building those accounting fundamentals, is what's going to help you succeed in whatever direction you want to go into. I think it was also mentioned that I think they actually talked about how many careers can someone have, and I see it being like 15 different careers. I think isn't it, at the minute, and it's not like a career ladder, is it? It's like that jungle gym of going here, there, everywhere, trying to find what suits you. And I think that's all vitally important when it comes into sort of building what does that curriculum sort of look like as we move forward. But then we talk about the sort of curriculum, and absolutely right, I was learning sort of what's coming through there around some of those technical skill sets that can require. That those are key things at the moment. So that ability to respond quickly to when the next new thing comes in. I think it was mentioned, wasn't it, how we missed the boat on a few different areas. That how can we increase that speed of response and be nimble around it? And it goes to the points as well, maybe by the colleagues over at CPA in Australia. Those micro courses, I think they're vitally important as we sort of move through now and think about is it micro credential? It's just those short-term courses that we can bring through. And I know that that's something at Chartered Capital Training thing that we have been looking at, going micro courses on sustainability, micro courses on data and analytics. How can we get them to market quickly, as opposed to having to go and redesign a large curriculum, which we know can take a great amount of time. I'm sure all the academics there try and get changed curriculum can take time, but what can that sharp learning intervention be? But not just for the sort of student. How can we build that into that lifelong learning aspect that was spoken about earlier as well? Again, we know that everyone's got skills through life, so how do we bring the components into that on someone's journey of continuing professional development? The other piece I think is going to be really crucial as we look through is that aspect there around be it soft skills, transferable skills, etc. That we have. As fundamentally, I think we talk about that role of an accountant shifting, and to me, I just see this as it's a trust business, isn't it? Once you lose trust, game over around there. And how does that sort of feed in then into that curriculum? I think it was spoken about at length earlier. Those aspects around governance, that risk, that ethics. I think ethics is a strong part and really needs to be fundamental as we go through and start the program, and that continuing engagement through there to ensure that everyone understands that. But being that trust game, how do we go through and build relationships? So a lot more around those interpersonal skills, those those judgments. How do you speak the language of accounting to non-accountants as well, and not got lost in technical. Being that real sort of consultant, that trusted advisor, is going to be crucial just as much as what we see come through those sort of technical skills. That constant evolution there, where I see there's that great opportunity for professional bodies, for academia to really combine through. But we can't forget those high school teachers as well. We were seeing it at the base root level down there. Actually, what's the psyche of a student? How that can change? Yesterday's high school student, tomorrow's first year, university student, and next it's going to be a graduate on there. How do we sort of work through that? Going to be crucial. And in doing so, we'll also bring up some other changes. If we look at the ways in which I know we're speaking about the different examination periods coming through there, was there a need to start to rethink as well? What do examinations look like? Is it that move away from some of those high stakes exams that we see? Think about what other ways in which we can sort of test that level of competence away from just that examination setting, be it more through that sort of coursework and that career work and other aspects around there. I think really fall in line with what we're seeing, that change in the students' learning habits sort of coming through and looking like that these days. But definitely lots of opportunities around there, and looking around the room, it is something that I think we can all sort of work together, through. I know obviously from the Institute of CA Sri Lanka, through the work that's been going on by Chartered Accountants worldwide, there's a lot of aspects there looking at the profession, looking at terminology, how do we know there's issues with the word audit and the connotations there, just being like a rite of passage of people rather than actually showcasing where audit skills can, what they can bring and how they actual Sri Lankan CAs who are based overseas now. It's like that element there of how do we support, how do we keep promoting that element of that sort of global career is going to be a huge aspect. So very keen to sort of work through and see what we can do around what does that curriculum look like in terms of some of those other things that are quick to market to get through, isn't there? But then also really sort of building out how the position and the profession as a whole as we move forward. So thank you for the session. Thank you for the time. Really interested in that sort of conversation. Look forward to continuing that a bit later on this evening.
Thank you. Okay, right. So everybody was actually talking about ethics, and also like tonight we have the EPESB CEO Chanda Vijay Singh as well. So now we are going to actually have RMIT's selling point here. So I'm going to now invite Dr. Sonia. Sorry, Sonia. Always I actually know. Yes. I'm so sorry. Like Jess and Victor Arti to demonstrate and explain accounting education and serious games.
So I guess you need to make sure it's. Your sound is. Let's see how it goes. Alright everyone, my name is Victor, and today Sonia and myself will be presenting an ASIC simulation. So I couldn't agree more with Meredith and Lakmika around how should we teach students to build up their competence, because it's hard. And you cannot just didactically teaching them by standing here and say, here you go, this is the code of ethics, and just practice as it says, right? And we know if you've been asked whether you would do the wrong thing, and you would say no, but you might react differently when you've been actually put into that situation. Along with all these listed issues when we were teaching our students accounting topics, ghostwriters, definitely student engagement, authentic assessment design, and student and staff well-being, we thought we might have one possible solution that could tackle all these issues. At the same time, would be able to help our students to foster their competencies. So today we will present a series game that is called the Bogart Ethic Training. So in this series game, we created animated, well not animated, sorry, 3D characters who will be your colleagues, and you will be hired into a company where they have a code of conduct, they have company policy, and this game is developed counterintuitively because you will be pressed to make wrong decision. Every time you make a correct decision, your colleague will come to you and say, no, that's not what we want, because your bonus is tied with your performance, and to get your performance past the targeted level, you really need to practice unethically. So it's very interesting to see how students or even our practitioners will perform. When we were doing the pilot testing, we found that most of them will be eventually fired once they finish the series game, because it's just almost impossible when your direct line manager or superior telling you please just cross the line, and it's just so irresistible to say no to them. The next two slides, I hope the speaker is working. We have prepared 2 short videos to show you when you make the right decision, what would your colleague tell you. Hopefully it will work. I think it's a speaker issue. Let me change the speaker.
Those dates changed.
Yeah, correct.
What is she doing looking at invoice dates? It's really not part of her role. You need to make sure she stays focused. I had those dates changed so we could all meet our performance targets. You need to be a little creative to survive in this job. The replacement accountant, Victor, is there as a temp because the previous junior accountant wasn't a team player and is causing a bit of trouble. If you just stay focused on processing those reports and keeping your superiors happy, you'll do well in this company.
So this is Cedric. I believe you can feel the threat from Cedric. When someone actually came to you and say, we noticed the invoice date has been changed, apparently there is something dodgy going on, and this is what you hear from your colleagues saying just walk away and play along, then you will be fine. And if you don't, if you keep doing the right thing, and you will be brought to the Jade Zhao, that's CFO's attention, and see what Jade Zhao thinks.
Good morning. Can you please come and see me in my office? Good morning. I hope you're settling in okay. I have just seen this Australian report you have processed. I thought Cedric would have explained this to you, but Belmont Industries are a very good customer of ours, and it's important we don't create too many bad debts. It's great that you are putting pressure on them to pay, but you need to make sure it doesn't backfire. We really need to look after our good customers and make sure we don't alienate them. Part of your role is also to keep the team's performance up, so we can all meet our performance targets. I will return that report to you so you can process it again. I suggest you grant them an extension.
So this time not only the report has been sent back and she's giving you, well, I would say that's a direct order to ask you to grant them extension. This is where most of the players will cave and say, okay, the CFO give me the direction to give them extension, I would do that. But that's against the company's code of conduct and company policy, and it will ended up with you being fired and being reported to the relevant body. So this simulation, it's actually about 1 hour long, I would say. So it's impossible for us to show you from the very beginning. But with those short video clips, you would see when you, every time in this simulation, when you are making the correct decision, there will be a pushback. And we want to see whether you can really uphold the standards. And there are multiple ends of the story, depends on your choices. So you could be making all the right decisions, you could be really resistant to your superior's pressure, and then you are to be commended for what you did. And you could also end it with being fired and making the wrong decisions, being fired and reported to the accountancy bodies. So we found this is really something we believe could actually help you to foster your competence, because you are actually experiencing what's going to happen, and you can see the consequences of not upholding the code of conduct. And next, Sonia will introduce how we are embedding this into one of our accounting courses. But before Sonia do that, I would like to point out this could also be used as a micro-credential CPD training for our practitioners as well, because this simulation is created based on the newly released code of conduct anyway. So it is not only targeted on undergrad students. Yes, Sonia.
Yeah, so when we initially were looking at introducing it in the course, it's a first year undergraduate course, we wanted to test it at first, so we just voluntarily asked students if they wanted to use it, wasn't linked to assessment or anything like that, and just give us some feedback on it, particularly around, you know, is it going to be useful? Do you think other students should play it? Do they have any technical issues? Because they're the sorts of things we wanted to know about as to whether or not we introduce it. And you can see that they, most of them enjoyed it, thought it did have educational value, highly recommended that other students do it. Some minor issues with refreshing the screen, but nothing major. Majority of students made unethical decisions, and it's not until you actually experience it that you don't feel, it's really difficult to explain it until you experience it, and it's about probably as close as we can get to putting students in a situation that's probably uncomfortable, but yet safe in that way. So then we introduced it into Melbourne, and Pavitra and myself, a group of us are doing some research into it with some colleagues from School of Management as well, and psychology as well. So, and looking at how it's used even in other disciplines. And so we're really at the early start, but anecdotally, we got what we got the students to do was to play the game and to reflect on it, basically, in one of their assessments. And students were in disbelief, couldn't believe they did anything wrong. And I think one of the outcomes of this, I think that a lot of the learning comes from them actually attempting it again. Because their first attempt at it, they're quite unsure, okay, it's a game, let's do it. And when they get fired, fined, terminated, jailed, deregistered, it's a big confronting. And even, you know, we saw Jade there. Jade actually gets a little bit more worked up later on. And sometimes it's more subtle as well, and they really highlight the team aspect. You know, you've got to be a member of the team. To be that, you've got to do what everyone else does. You know, other people lose their bonuses because of what you're doing. So send the report back again and try again. So, yeah, again, the cultural factors as well, anecdotally tended to come into that as well. But then students when they play the game again, they start to realise, and when they place that link back to the code of conduct, they start to realise what's right and what's not right. Whether the superiors are directing them incorrectly or not, they start to feel that, they start to question their decisions. And this semester we used it Singapore and Melbourne. We're marking Melbourne at the moment, but we've just finished the Singapore marking, and we, in an individual business report, we got the students to play the game and then tell us what their outcome was, and also do a reflective part, and then we had questions in relation to the code of conduct, separate from the simulation. It's not uncommon for the majority of people that play it, or the majority of groups of students that play it, to actually not get a great outcome. I've put examples of the sorts of comments that you read by students when they reflect on playing the game and then thinking about what they learnt from it. And, you know, things like better to do the right thing, even if it affects your performance. Being unable to go back into the accounting field is worse than missing out on your bonus. I mean, and this is what students are saying. You know, you can see that they are being pressured. It's a game. They think it's a game. It's actually a serious game, but they feel the pressure. And when you play the game, you're really torn, because you've got these superiors telling you to do something, and your instinct for a lot of them, because they say their intentions were good at the beginning, but they felt that pressure even through that. So, and that's what I mean, at least it's a safe environment for them to make mistakes like that, or to really look at the fact that, you know, sometimes a superior might be telling you to do something. It doesn't mean that you have to actually do it. You know, think about the you know, company policy and what you're supposed to be doing. Yeah, not be afraid to report wrongdoings, even if your colleagues are the superiors. I think is really good. Follow your ethics, don't blindly follow orders. So I think there's some learning in there, and it doesn't frighten me that a lot of them don't have a great outcome. Some of them do become CFO at the end of it, and you know, I've read somewhere they were quite happy with it, but the fact that they can go back and play it again, and then they really have to think about what did they do wrong. And I think that's where a lot of the learning actually happens, but it's a safe environment. But it actually, and as I said, that, you know, they may not treat it seriously, but once you get to the end of it and they're at the board meeting, well, yeah. So that, I don't think that's an issue, because we do give them the ability to go through the simulation, or the game again, and to revisit it, and that starts the thinking process. So, yeah. I just think they're telling the comments anyway.
That's okay. Thank you, Sonia and Victor. Yes. So, this is the serious game Bogart that we have introduced into accounting education. And so Sonia and Victor, they are using this in order to assess the code of ethics, and also like in my case, in a postgraduate course, I used to assess the corporate culture through the game. Yes. So for different aspects, you can use the same game. Yes. Okay. Thank you so much. Yeah. So now it's actually the Q&A session. So so probably yes, we will actually give chance to have like probably few questions, because we are going to have a networking session at Oxford Scholar just next to this building. And if you want to, like further elaborate your ideas and things, you can actually, like discuss those things during the Q&A. But to start with, so yeah, so anyone is having a burning question or to discuss things with Sanjay? Yes, look with that.
I'll just
yes.
make a comment, that's Pavitra.
Yeah.
So we were talking about micro-credentials, we were talking about competencies. There is a project that's happening with the IT at the moment that's combining these two together. So they're looking at developing a micro-credentials framework that's combined to competencies, and I think there's a lot of other professional bodies which are also going down that path. CA is doing a fair bit of work in that area as well. Well, and I know that CA is doing under Simon Hunt, they're doing some fair bit of work in that area as well. So that's something that you can potentially leverage upon with the three bodies here, and something to seriously consider. Just an observation.
Yes. So any other, or Sanjay, you want to actually
Yeah, a
share
couple of
something?
things. So we have actually a research unit within our institute. We started sometime back in 2018. And so we invite our members and even the non-members to come and present their papers. Every year, so we have a research symposium in December, right? So our central bank governor of Sri Lanka used to be the basically keynote speaker there. Actually, we did a lot of good research. One when I was 9, 15, 16, 17, and forensic accounting and investigation, etc. So very good, quite a few good papers were presented during last 2 to 3 years. But still, we of the view that okay, we're not doing enough, in that area. Yes, it's a good point, and we will continue to focus on that and improve. And not only for members. And last year we started, research symposium even to our students, in the sense we encourage our students, even though research is not part of our curriculum. Still, we organize a research symposium to encourage our students to get into research and present their papers in a research symposium. Professor Roshan Adbar from University of Sri Lanka will chair the committee, and in addition to that, a couple of professors from University of Colombo and California are also supporting us, on this. And as far as Nabishan mentioned this exposure drafts and discussion papers, etc. Whenever exposure drafts are out, now we have a mechanism where we organize CFO forums and the practicing, for practicing members forums where so we discuss the exposure drafts and discussion papers. Now we submit our comments and observations, for the consideration of ISB or ISSB. Right now, previous year those were not there, but recently we started them now. Even for S1 and S2, sustainability 2 standards, we had quite a bit of discussions at the institute where a lot of comments or observations were given. We shared our observations with ISSB. And as far as the lectures, and as you correctly said, yes, it's basically outsourced in the sense that teaching colleges basically transfer knowledge of the content of our curriculum. A few years ago, we started accreditation of teaching colleges and lecturers. So that process is also now in place, especially to ensure that the knowledge is transferred more. And as I earlier said, we have a skill pillar in our qualification. And so we are mainly concentrating on these language skills and IT skills, and not only language. Where at the end of every stage, so we basically invite students for a residential program for 2 days or 3 days. So where case study based discussions and various activities are organized to promote this teamwork, and the leadership skills and the presentation skills and etc. etc. We want to ensure that okay, all our members, agile members, agility is basically respectively promoting among. These are some of the basically points based on the outcome.
I can add a little bit to the research component. I was working with a few students in Sri Lanka to do their PhD projects. I think, as Subhash mentioned, it's very important to collaborate with research organizations. Through that, you will be able to get a global recognition. If you win the research grant, you will get money to conduct research in Sri Lanka. 25 million population, a lot of institutions, cultural things, sustainability, so much of avenues are there. I think it's always better to consider the research collaboration with developing countries, developed countries, so that you will be able to get, great opportunity to conduct research and get some identification.
Yes, we'll definitely do. As I said, we are not done enough because it's a relatively new, for CA. It started as 2019, 5 years old, and so within that 5 years we had 3 years affected by COVID, and we'll definitely focus on this.
So one more question, yes, Kanchana, yeah.
Go about one observation, the point of discussion. So we spoke about the capacity building and then competency enhancement. I think getting the practical experience or the exposure plays a huge role in terms of adding more values to our capacity. So Sanjay mentioned now CA Sri Lanka is talking about going through a different path, reducing the ability to go through that rigorous training requirements. My question, point of discussion, also we need to look at other Western countries have different systems. So most of the students in the early stage have opportunity to get on with the day-to-day works, and they are the fun drivers of this gig economy. So considering all these elements, yes, how much would be that effective in Sri Lanka in terms of reducing the practical training requirements, and wouldn't that be counterproductive in terms of taking the real value within the capacity and enhancing the boundaries and challenging the students to go through that, to keep up to date with the market requirements? What is your point? So what wouldn't that be counterproductive?
We have not yet taken a decision, Kanchana. Yes, Indian Institute, they were suggesting us, okay, why don't you consider? And even Canadian institutions, so they were also telling us that, okay, they are considering. But our content, we are not yet decided on that. We have not yet started a discussion on that. But still, we believe that some change is required. And the curriculum process, as I earlier said, one of the key thing what we do is identify kind of a profile of our member, right? Graduate profile or profile of our member, especially in the today's context. Everyone says, okay, there will have to be a future accountant, will have to be a co-pilot, or as you said, okay, so strategies, etc. So considering the global, requirement, right? So we'll have to basically come up with a profile, and then based on that profile, right? We'll have to identify what are the skill set required, and then whether that skill set, can be given, within a period of, 3 years or 2 years is a kind of an assessment that we got to make. As looking for to say, yes, now, so you have to identify skills and competencies required, for you to produce that strategies or the co-pilot or the individual who can create value for the corporate. And then depending on that, you will have to decide. So therefore, we are yet to start that process. As I said, yes, we are going to start the curriculum process. In that process, we got to make that, kind of a comprehensive assessment as to whether, you can, do it within 2 years or 3 years or 4 years. So therefore, I believe that that's a process we got to follow, especially, in designing the training period. Still too early for us to hear.
So Lapika and then Nadi, yes.
Okay, just in relation to that training period time frame, I'm not a believer of putting time factor on anything. You can learn nothing for 3 years, or you can learn everything for 3 years. That's why I always go down the pathway of competency based, and micro-credentialing is a test of that competency. So you can't say, okay, 2 years, 3 years, 4 years, it's actually irrelevant in my view. You Because what is the point of putting a number on a person's ability to do something? You can do something, you can be competent in 1 month, you can be competent in 6 months. So I don't completely disagree with the Indian Institute of Chartered Accountants if they want to go down to 2 years, but I think that whole discussion is baseless or irrelevant because it is not the time frame that you should look at, it is the competency that you should look at. So that's, yeah, just wanted to mention that.
Now, I've already covered my point, just to echo the same point. It's not only time, how quite the training that they get, how comprehensive that is. I know some of the big classes, they do the same thing, ticking invoices, throughout 1 month or 6 months period. So how comprehensive that training period, and how we can make sure that, what are the promises that made the partners or practitioner made are actually happening. Not only the
I
time,
think
but the
because
quality.
of the practical difficulty necessary the competency.
Yeah.
Even if you take Indian institutes, they have 1.2 million students, right? For example, how we are going to assess the competency 1.2 million, for in the membership, right? Yeah.
There are tools that are being developed.
So I think that probably might be reason why most of the institutions are going on that road, 2 years or 3 years,
I'll add one more thing to that. Actually, 4 years or 3 years, it's based on number of categories like audit, taxation, accounting, sort of areas as well as industries in Sri Lanka. That's what happened. But 4 years is too long. But that's how number of hours in the institute they allocated for each student to go through this much of time and learn something. But for 2 or 3 years, what we have to do, make sure that person go through that certain number of years or number of hours. But it's practically happening or not, that's the question.
Now, as you know, Aruna, now from from CA perspective, now all trainees undergoing training, all 3 levels, first business level, corporate strategic level, we ensure that we do an assessment of adequacy of their training every year. So where the first year of training is over, so we do an assessment of adequacy of training based on we have a training curriculum also, right? So whether that so they have achieved that competency required, right? But even though we have 35,000 students, we have only 3,500, only about 10% of students undergoing training, right? So that 3,000, I know how difficult it is for us, to assess them, on a yearly basis, but we do it, and there are many instances where we accept the training on the basis that we are not acquired adequate training, on the areas of within the training curriculum specified for that particular level.
So Professor Ekanaika and then Professor Abevansan.
Yeah, my comment will be very minor, but still I thought saying, first I see when you take Sri Lankan Institute is very unique in my perspective, because on one hand, it fills a gap there where olden days there were students who didn't go to university, you put them on and then train them very well and put it in very good places in Sri Lanka. You are now with 6,000 or 7,000 members, you are very powerful. You are holding many big institutions and very senior positions there. And then completely almost all accounting, auditing profession as well. Okay, that's the thing with a small number of members. Now what I think is now, even I'm a CPA, I'm a chartered accountant, I'm CIMA, right, to tell you about it a little bit, I started as accountant, did some auditing, then moved to financial management and became a finance director, and then I ended my professional career as acting president of Mitsubishi Machinery Industry. Then I joined Deakin University as an academic. When I came here, it was in a way, it was hard to find a job, because therefore I initially, at that time, I came in 1991. At that time, the top-notch people here, there was a big recession. They were being laid out to the market. They were holding very big position, but they were laid out. If you put an application in to any post, which is for finance manager, they never hold it. We had a lot of issues. Now this generation is very lucky when you compare to what we went through. Okay, not that I'm not suggesting anything else, but the thing is, now in profession, in academia, what I got, I started as a financial accountant lecturer, and then moved to management accounting, then moved to finance, and ended up as risk management. Okay, so when you combine this profession, real practice, as well as academia, I feel that in academia, as well as in the profession to an extent, we don't really talk about these trade-offs or calibrations in what. We only talk about, I looked at your syllabus, it's great. I look at content-wise, it's very good, excellent. But the thing is, I had the doubt whether students get competencies. Lakmika was talking about it several times. That's really issue, especially when, as I heard, when you get other institutions to teach you syllabus. Our resources in Sri Lanka is very thin. May I add, not that I'm bragging to get the context. For 2 years I was in Sri Lanka as a Vice Chancellor of a private university. Lakmika visited me at that time, and to accredit Deakin, to get Deakin accreditation to Swedish University. And I was the CEO, and I tried to do many things, but resources are very thin. Even if you have a session to teach teachers who are coming, these university lecturers come, you get university lecturers, they come and repeat what they did there and repeat here, and then deliver the content and go. This is the real story. Deliver the content and go. That is easy because delivering the content is the easiest thing for the lecture. Now I work to cut it short. Now I work with Melbourne University after my retirement because I wanted to do some work to keep me occupied. Now I work in a unit subject called Accounting Information Risk and Controls. In that, I'm not going to talk much about how we build competencies. We have given a comprehensive case study to the students beforehand, and then students have to prepare a 10-minute video, professional video, and submit it beforehand. Then starting from tomorrow, we are having 2 of us sit, and they have to present on one side, I told you it is the presentation of the video, and we marked it, we watched it, and we have already watched it. Now the team comes in front of here to the class, and then as a team, they defend what they have advised, what they have recommended in the case. They defend. So we evaluate as a team as well, that we give a mark as a team, as well as we mark each individual, 4 in a group, and we give comments also. So the issue is, ideally we can think about a lot of things we can do, but practically what's the extent we can do in Sweden? I know you must be thinking about that, all these things, how are we going to do that? So what I'm telling is now, then the trade-off involved in anything. I was looking at that game, this game called Bogart. I was thinking, okay, we can have something like, not only for ethics, for anything else we can have a game like this. Like for trade-off in risk capital, risk tolerance, or anything, okay, in corporate management, corporate risk, capital structure, all those things. But thing is, we need time, we need resources, and whether a professional body, now Australia, I believe, and the Australian CPA members officers are here, I don't think CPA is going training in that face-to-face way in Australia. Correct me. I'm a member of CPA, but
I don't know, out of touch with CPA now. Are they in CPA, are they going into the task of increasing competencies? Yes, they give content, they test everything. But CA Sri Lanka is thinking about giving competencies because you got to do that. There's a role for it. So we have to carefully think about what we can do, ideally what we should do, and what we can do, what are the resources we need, etc. This is a comment.
Thanks you, Professor Ibrahim, for your comment here. So Subhash here, so we will make this as the last question. Yeah.
So at the start, Meredith spoke about the changing role of accountants, and here now we're having this conversation about the practical work experience component. Now, of course, Sri Lankan chartered accountants are the guardians of the financial accounting audit profession, and we Sri Lankan chartered accountants have a mandate, a statutory mandate to do that. But given the changing role of accountants, and now, for instance, accountants are getting involved in sustainability reporting, and in some organizations, I have done some research in this space. Some organizations are entrusting the ESG space to the CFO now. So given the changes that are happening, have you thought about maybe relaxing the requirements to have work experience in certain areas? Like, for example, you have a heavy emphasis on audit and taxation. Think about maybe your members might not get into some of these areas, but might be interested in other areas. Therefore, yeah, just diversifying the professional experience requirement.
Yeah, we are doing it actually, because especially when the sustainability reporting and then related assurance, kind of work was discussed. We started, revisiting the training curriculum of the institute, and even the practicing certificate requirement, the total areas covered, basically were revised, taking into consideration what's happening in the global market. And
Right, okay.
The
So
question,
we can actually yes, you have a question? Sorry. Yes, Chandra. Yeah.
I'll make some comments, I don't know the response. So on the training, just my personal view is that it should not be reduced. I'm speaking from experience of being a facilitator for the chartered accountants for nearly 20 years in Australia. So the CAs have a model of CAs training CAs. So 2 CAs will facilitate the training program and the delivery of the CA program. So I think it should still remain as 3 years, because we see when they come in that there's a jump from university to the profession. So that's where we facilitate that jump. The second thing is on sustainability. I think you have to open up the profession to allow other people to come in, because now internationally we are looking at both the assurance standards and the ethics standards to be broader than just accountants, because that's what the mandate of the Public Interest Oversight Board has been, to broaden it, that it can't be limited to accountants, because the issue is when you look at different countries, in Australia we are fine, 95% of the work is done by accountants, but in New Zealand it's dominated by non-accountants. So like that, different countries have a different profile, and IFAC has done the research. So that's why we need to broaden the profession and make it available for everyone. So just some observations.
Thank you.
I share the same view of yours as far as the daily requirement is concerned. My personal view is we should leave it as it is.
Right, okay. So we can actually carry on this conversation when we move to Oxford Scholars. So canopies and drinks will be actually served there. Now I'm going to actually call upon Ishan Prithiagoda, the Secretary of CA Sri Lanka Australia chapter, to deliver the vote of thanks. So Ishan actually works as a financial accountant at Premier Fresh Australia. Over to you.
thanks, Pavitra. Now, when I was listening to all of these speakers, presenters, Sanjay, I would really feel that I should start my qualification once more, chartered qualification, because I should be able to do analytics, AI, research, leadership, and playing some playing some serious games without going into the jail. So all of these promising and confident voices of speakers indicates that something CA Sri Lanka will have from this tour or from this forum. So congratulations. So I feel that we are towards meeting our objectives. So with that note, I would like to first of all thank Mr. Sanjay Bandara, the keynote speaker for us today, and also the President of CA Sri Lanka. And furthermore, going into not the Associate Professor, but the Dr. Lokmika Pereira, and Dr. Meredith Tarapos, Professor Subhash Abevansa, for their viewpoints from the viewpoint of the universities. And also, in addition to that, I would like to thank Mr. Anthony Taiki and Dr. Loretta Ross and Nadi Disanaika from CP Australia, and their input from the professional accounting body's point of view. And moving further, Dr. Sonia and Victor, sorry again, I couldn't catch your surname. Sorry about that. Should be very precious, yeah. And so thanks everyone. Without taking much of time, I'm sure that the experiences that we have shared here today and the relationships and the network that we are going to build up during the networking session will help us to deliver the expected outcome of this academic forum. And also wish to express my sincere thanks to Dr. Pavitra Sirivardhana for chairing, taking the responsibilities into her shoulders to organize this forum, academic forum, and also the committee who supported the academic forum. Also would like to thank CA Sri Lanka, being our mother organization, for ongoing support for events like this, and also in other numerous ways. And also I cannot forget the support given by the Executive Committee of CA Sri Lanka Australia chapter for the success of series of events, starting from the Chartered Bowl Night a couple of days ago, and we are ending with a business forum on Wednesday. Finally, on behalf of CA Sri Lanka Australia chapter, thanks to all today's attendees who made this forum a success. It's been a great pleasure to have all of you here, and we cordially invite you to gather the usual happening place for us at the Oxford Scholar to have to continue this networking session. Thank you very much.
Thanks.